What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Golf Bag live stream for the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I know you guys are here for a reason. We got a ton of stuff to cover. I am joined today again by Mr. J.K. Ray, ASU. Jacob, how's it going, man?
It's going good, Drew. Looking forward to digging in a little bit. I know we got some certainly some things to talk about, especially with the weather. I think everybody wants to hear. So excited to kick it off and close out some research and start the week off right.
Yeah, man, a lot of stuff to cover. If you guys haven't heard already, there's probably been a dozen withdrawals since Monday, something like that.
Oh yeah,
we'll look at those here in a second. I got a list of a few guys that were the most recent for today, and of course we'll talk about weather. So let's go ahead. Looks like we're getting a decent crowd gathering already. I see Jay Blaze in there. Chef Perm, I'm going to see him this weekend, hopefully, with the Tour Junkies. That'll be fun, man. Augusta, Trey, Boone Cray, D-Go, King of Heartsy. What's up, guys? So let's go ahead and hop into the agenda, and we'll kind of give you a rundown of what we're going to be going over. Alrighty. I updated this slide since last week. Of course, we kind of shuffle around the Q&A. It's all through the show. So if you do have any questions, yeah, man, thanks for the nice slide compliment. The last couple, the Q&A, just drop it in chat. You see it now? You like it?
Yeah.
So let's start from the top. Podcast review. We're going to go over our show from Monday, talk about some guys that we may have missed, guys that we liked, or, that now we're kind of on the low end of. FGB line movement, just talking about guys that through the week we may have moved our opinion on and waiting to withdraw from this podcast. Dude, I wish I could get invited to the Pebble Beach Pro-Am now. I'd at least played as a Pro-Am, or as an Am. Then get into the weather. That's a big one. Projected ownership, always by fansharesports.com, so we'll talk about that. And, of course, giveaways we'll sprinkle in throughout the show. And like I said, Q&A, just drop them in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on it, as well as Jacob. And I'll get to the proximity stat. That's a good one. So yeah, let's go ahead and just talk just a minute, Jacob, about where we've gone from Monday till now. Obviously, there's been some withdrawals. I think one of the big ones, at least from yesterday, Kokrak, I think we talked about, he withdrew. Today we had Joel Damon and a couple other guys. I don't know if they were terribly popular, but they definitely were going to be played. I think they're definitely on people's radar. So what about you? Where do you kind of stand since Monday? Are you, I am definitely playing this event somewhat light compared to a normal event. I I don't think that's a bad mentality. It's definitely got some hit or miss stuff. I was talking to Chris Ferreter, which I don't know if he's in the chat, C. Ferreter, but he was like, man, I'm thinking about just dumping it all and just, betting. And I said, dude, everyone's in the same boat. I mean, it's going to be kind of a shoddy weather slate, so kind of see how everything's draw up. But I'm definitely going to play a decent amount, but it's going to be lighter. I'm not going to play cash, so try to play it a little smarter. But where do you stand on this slate so far?
So normally, I think from the get-go, I knew I was going to play early. Sort of just was leaning, play light. Was leaning that way from the start. But certainly, all the withdrawals are just sort of reaffirming my initial thoughts about the variables that come into play in this tournament. I think one of the withdrawals you missed was probably the biggest, and I don't know if you did that for a reason or not. But Cantlay also withdrew today.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one today. Forgot about him.
Yeah, and probably people were saying that, the Coke Rack withdrawal was going to save him money. I think this Cantlay withdrawal is going to be like 10 times that because...
I wasn't going to play much Cantlay, so it probably saved me a little bit if you would have gone and just striped it.
Yeah. No, I think that the California narrative and the POA, and I think that he's not a great win player, I don't believe, but I still think he would have been decently popular.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you were trying to be a little contrarian and start in the 9K. But yeah, certainly. So Cantlay's out now, and just a couple guys that I've either got a little bit more interested in or are moving off of a little bit. Paul Casey, I know you had mentioned him on Monday.
Yeah. I
had some semi-interest in him, and then I dug in a little bit, and I think that I'm pretty intrigued by him. I might swap him out instead of Reed. I'm kind of on the fence between the two of them right now, but he intrigues me. He doesn't have huge course history here, but he did have a top 10 last year. His form coming in, I wish that I would have that he's played a little bit more. He missed the cut probably, 4 or 5 events in his first one out, and then finished 16th or something. I think this Tournament of Champions.
Yep. Yeah, he finished 16th MC and then a second. So decent form coming in. He skipped the Saudi Arabian tournament last week. So
okay.
I like Paul Casey quite a bit. It's really scary with all these guys withdrawing, to be honest, because like I saw someone in the chat. I'll try to hit on some of these questions. Drew Matthews, WD. I wish I could be in a tournament to WD. Someone was saying, what's up with all the withdrawals? And honestly, I guess it's just the weather. I don't know. I haven't heard anything else besides that. The golf course looks great. I've seen pictures of that. It looks fine. It's not like, there was really a ton of storm damage from last week. I think they had a bunch of wind and greens are jacked up or something. So I think it's just the weather, and maybe guys didn't get a practice round in from the weather on Monday and Tuesday. So I don't know, man. I really don't know why so many guys are withdrawing, but it just looks like a weather situation to me.
Yeah. A couple other guys that sort of grown my interest in. As you know, I'm on Day. He will probably start out my single for me. But
so you're bearing the lead just a little bit. I won't jump the gun too fast, but you'd be surprised at the one guy that's priced above DJ this week, or has more ownership than DJ this week.
Who's that? Day?
Yeah, so far. We'll get to that in a minute, but I'm just saying. I thought that was really interesting.
Okay, yeah, no, I did not write him up today, probably for that reason. I really wanted to, but I don't want to sound redundant week to week, and I feel like I write him up a lot. But I just felt like, his ownership was going to be pretty high, anyways, just because of the type of field, and there's not really a lot of stud talent. It's like DJ and Day, and then I don't know if you put Fleetwood into that category. Spieth is kind of trying to find his own. So I certainly think they're the two primary guys that you would want to consider. It doesn't surprise me that he would be higher owned. I would be a little surprised if he was higher owned than DJ, honestly. It might be salary saving?
I think, yeah, exactly. The $500 salary savings from DJ to Jason Day, both course histories look pretty good. So like from a normal average DFS player coming in, you look at DJ, they hear a bunch of hype. Jason Day looks just as good. And arguably he probably is, like, he's had just as good a run here. But that $500 savings, is, a guy, you're at 6,700 for your last spot. If you drop down to Jason Day from DJ, now you're up to 7,200. Your lineup looks better. I mean, it's kind of spotty in the 6Ks. I think there's a couple decent plays which we can talk about, but I think the salary savings is causing that. I've seen some lineups where people are playing literally 3 6K guys. That's ugly. It could certainly work with the 3-course rotation, and everyone's guaranteed 54 holes. I do want to get to a couple of these questions, then we can kind of get back to the podcast thing. So before we kind of get to that, let's touch on. We won't touch on the weather yet, but let's touch on a couple of the WDs, just to give people a little insight. And I'll just go down the list. I won't talk about any of these. This is at Roto World. They have a pretty good feed on all the sports as far as injuries go, and usually you don't see a ton of injuries in golf. But obviously Joel Damon, Patrick Cantley's there. Jim Furyk's playing. Dustin Johnson's playing. Blah, blah, blah. Coming down, let's see, Kokrak, Kyle Stanley, Kevin Na. So if these guys are in your lineups or you are looking at them early in the week, you'll want to take them out of your lineups now.
Yeah, Kirk was included in that. Peter Uline.
Yeah, there's a ton. I don't know where the second page is on this website, to be honest, but I did want to point out those guys from today. Obviously, Cantley's a big one you talked about, and then I really think Damon was going to get not a ton of popularity, but I think he was going to get some ownership for sure. He was at a decent price. I think guys would follow him to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as me, I'm having a tough time maybe in the middle range. Like, the more and more I look at it, and I didn't really want to play Ches Reavie, but you look at the guys around him. You say Ches Reavie, Brandon Grace. You can start to build a pretty good lineup. Adam Scott I was not playing, but Paul Casey you just mentioned. Like, those three right there are pretty good guys to start with, and you're not burning a ton of salary as you would if you started with a DJ right off the bat. So I think I'm going to take a couple approaches in lineup construction, like a couple balanced, and we'll see how that goes. And then obviously a couple real stars and scrubs. Obviously I'll try to take 2, like a Jason Day and DJ lineup, mix that with like 3 6K guys. One of the ones we mentioned on the podcast, Julian Etulain, he's 6,200 or 6,100 or something? Yeah, 6,100. I mean, that saves quite a bit of salary right there. So I think that's an interesting build. We'll get into the weather here in a second. It really doesn't look too bad from what we're seeing right now. And then there's weather on Friday, a little bit on Saturday, not bad. But like tomorrow, from what we're looking at on Thursday, it looks really good. So do you have any other guys, going down the list, some of the guys that popped to me with course history? We talked about that in our chat earlier today. Like Jimmy Walker has terrible recent form, but then he had terrible recent form last year. He came to this event and he played fine. Like, he loves this course. He's had, I think up until maybe 2 years ago, he had as good a course history as DJ. I mean, he's just rocked at this place. So a couple of those guys with really good course history, I've tried to add back into my pool, and we'll see how it goes. And again, those are sprinkles. It's not like I'm making them a core play. I think you'll want to build solid. Build around DJ. That's always a good play. But then like the balanced lineups, I think you'll avoid some landmines down the low 7s. So that's kind of where I'm eyeing it so far.
Okay, so a couple names that I saw when I was just looking through the tournament dashboard spreadsheet that is up on the website for everybody to take a look at. You can tell me what you think about these guys, but just a couple that really jumped back out to me as I was looking through. I might go with J.B. Holmes. I know his course history is pretty solid. Missed the cut last year, looks like on the number, and then 10th, 11th, and 23rd were his last 3 events prior to that. And then his form coming in, he finished just outside the top 25 last week and had a miscut I think the event before that. So not terrible. Really not bad at all with the course history. Guys that I'm looking to target are ones that have seen the course before with decent course history, and they've got some sort of form coming in. Maybe a little bit more than a guy with a heartbeat, but but somebody that has, okay, it's okay if he's got a miscut in his last 3 events, but if he's got some solid play around it, then the combination of those 2 things is what I'm looking at. One guy that I really have some interest in is Matt Jones, and I wanted to get your take on it, but he missed the cut last year at this event pretty handily. But before that, he had a 23rd, an 11th, and a 7th. And then his most recent event, he finished 13th, miscut, and then a 29th. So, he's kind of checking the boxes in these course history, mediocre form, not terrible coming in. And, he certainly will save you some money so you can get up there. And, I wouldn't say you could stack DJ and Dave, but he makes things a little bit easier, that's for sure. So
yeah, 7,200 is not bad.
Yeah,
he's decent. He's one of those with course history that he's. I don't know if he's quite made it to my list. He's on the verge. Kind of on that same breath, like I've taken Jimmy Walker's a good example for a guy with good course history, and I looked at his form coming in from last year, and it was pretty bad. Obviously, he had Lyme disease, and he went from being, I don't know if he ever got into the top 5 in the world, but he was really close. And then all of a sudden he just fell off. He couldn't break 80. And then come in last year and he finished 8th. So those guys popped to me a little bit. I'm a little bit interested, and I think they'll be under the radar. There's other guys that are popping up just off of finishes last week. One of those is Charlie Hoffman, and I'm not going to play any Charlie Hoffman. Kudos to that guy. He did great at the Masters last year, so bravo. But, last week he played well. He's never played well here, and if the weather's going to be bad, that's not something I'm going to count on. So I would just be cautious of a few of those guys. It seems like they got hyped up immediately from one good event. And, these guys are all good, but I'm not going to – I want to put a little bit more weight into some of these guys than just getting, blown up ownership over one top 25 from last week. I think Russell Henley was kind of falling in that category. I feel a little bit better about him. But, yeah, Charlie Hoffman was one that I heard a ton of people talk about, and I just didn't get it.
Are you okay with some potential Russell Henley chalk at 15 or 18%?
Probably not. Let's see. You think he's at 15 to 20?
Probably in that range. I've seen him talked up a lot in the industry.
No, I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't think I could do that.
If he was 10 to 12, I would be okay with that. But
yeah, it seems like you're splitting hairs at 15%, but I don't know. I feel like I could go a different way, especially in an event where I feel like everyone's lost. Not the players. I'm talking about DFS players. They all seem like they're going one way or another. So let me hit a couple questions in the chat. We'll talk about the weather because I'm sure everyone's really curious about that. I saw one question. I mentioned it last week, and then I mentioned it again this week from Fantasy AJ 24. He says, "Why are you not a fan of the proximity stat?" And I'm sure Jacob's tired of me ripping on proximity again, but I'll try to surmise it as best I can. But so proximity stat. Let's go bigger screen here for this one.
All right.
So, the proximity stat measures every single shot a player hits as their approach shot into a green outside of 30 yards, I think. It doesn't matter where it ends up. So if you're at TPC Sawgrass and the pin's up front on 17 and you hit it just into the boards and it was 6 feet away, that counts as a 6 foot to the hole shot. It's not good. Guys that play different events over the course of a year, they play longer courses, bigger greens. They play shorter courses, smaller greens. The proximity numbers fluctuate. So, just looking at last year's proximity stats, from the lowest proximity event to the highest, there was a 14-foot gap between the tour average for those courses. 14 feet. So like you can definitely imagine a guy like Jason Day that goes and plays Torrey Pines and then plays like the U.S. Open. You know, if he didn't play the Sanderson Farms Open at 7,000 yards with wedges into his hand, everyone's hitting it to 12 feet, he looks awful in proximity. So why would you want to weigh that? And you could pretty much go back to any event last year and look at the lead-in proximity numbers with how the result was, and none of them match up outside of Ches Reeves, the only guy that pops at all. Like, I know we talked about that last week on the podcast, but he did the same thing at this event. He had good proximity numbers coming to this event, and he played well, which is great. But everyone else, man, you go through every event, guys that were like 140th, and then they ended up, you know, finishing top 5. So I understand the thought of, well, I want guys that are hitting it close and around the pin. Well, yeah, everyone wants that. But they're not playing the same samples. Like, you're literally getting a guy that played, you know, you talk about Cameron Champ playing the Sanderson Farms well, and then he goes to Torrey Pines. You would think, oh, well, proximity, he's hitting it 15 feet every hole. No, it's not the case, man. He's going to be hitting in the rough. He's going to have longer shots in. So it's just, you're not comparing apples to apples. So I highly discourage you from using proximity. I think there's ways to kind of tweak the proximity number to get it where you want. And I won't go into that too much as far as like in-tournament proximity numbers. I think there's something to be said for that. But when you're looking at like, oh, I'm going to check the last 24 rounds, who's leading in proximity, that's probably not the guys that you want. A lot of them don't even correlate with greener regulation, which makes no sense. You know, a guy's hitting 72% or 62% of his greener regulation, but he's like 5th in proximity. It doesn't make sense. And not to mention, like, halfway through the year, the variation of, like, I think, what did I tell you? 10th place to like 100th place was 3 feet. Mm-hmm. Like, that's nothing. So I won't get too far down the rabbit hole in that. But yeah, I think the idea in golf, people say, you know, I want to get it around the hole and I want to make a bunch of birdies. But from a golfer in a tournament standpoint, they're not always going at the pin. So why would you measure a proximity to a target they're not going at? We saw that a lot at Torrey Pines with Justin Rose. You know, if he's got a certain distance out of the rough, it could be 100 yards and he's supposed to hit it to, you know, 10 feet. He's going past the hole, hitting it to 20 feet, and that's a good shot. So you just got to be really careful with what you're using for proximity. So I would just warn you on that. And like I said, there's ways to kind of manipulate the numbers if you want to compare apples to apples, but it takes a lot of work from what you're probably getting. So let's go ahead and touch on the weather. I know you took a peek at it, and we'll transition there, and then I'll try to read through some of these questions and see what we got.
All right, so looking at the wind and the rain, it looks like we're going to have a decent amount of it pretty much all the way through.
Yeah, Thursday is actually really nice. I was surprised, like a high of 52, 3 to 7 miles per hour wind, no gusts. Tomorrow looks good. I expect pretty good scores tomorrow. So I think Friday, that's somewhat uneventful. It's Friday, it gets a little bit dicey.
Yeah, so Friday it looks like it starts out not terrible in the morning, 8 miles an hour, and then it looks like it's just going to increase throughout the day. Possibility of gusts up to 24, 26 miles an hour in the afternoon, especially if you are one that is trying to, find an edge in these tee time stacks and waves. There are two schools of thought with this. The first school of thought is that there's going to be a significant advantage between AM versus PM waves, right? Whoever goes off in the morning on Thursday, it's going to go off in the afternoon on Friday. They're going to get stuck with all the wind. Now, keep in mind, these are 6.5 hour rounds with amateurs. So people are going to be out there longer than they normally would, and they'll be exposed to these winds, whereas in a normal tournament, it might be a more clear-cut window. So I certainly think it's worth considering. If you're between two guys that you really like and they're really close and you're just looking for sort of one differentiator to go with one over the other, then that might be something that you consider. But, I wouldn't say, Jason Day has got the bad draw, I'm not playing him at all. Or, a guy that you really like in the 9K or the 8K, some stronger players. It's unfortunate they got a bad draw, but I don't think Tommy Fleetwood is a bad play just because he may or may not have the correct weather draw.
Yeah, and it's only one of the 3 courses for that 3-day split.
Exactly.
Yeah, I heard an interesting comment today, and it actually made a lot of sense. Like in tournaments, it definitely makes a lot of sense. If you're playing you think about getting a bad weather draw, you want to be playing the easier golf course. But in theory, if you play the tougher golf course and you can grind out like even par, 1 over, maybe 1 under on the tough weather, on the toughest golf course, when you get the good weather on the good golf course, you should be able to take advantage. And then when the guys get the good weather, they're back on the harder golf course. I think it kind of all evens out, but definitely from you think about like a U.S. Open and even par is a good score on a good day. If you had really bad weather, and let's just say they're playing 2 different courses for some reason, if you played pretty well on the really tough day at Shinnecock Hills and shot 1 over par, dude, you're lapping the field. And then you get the good draw as far as the good weather. You get on the easier course, you can play well. So sometimes it makes a lot of sense because if you play the easy course with bad weather, it kind of limits your scoring opportunities. And then you go get a guy like DJ on the easy course on the easy day, and it's like, man, I missed like 5 or 6 shots out there compared to this dude that's just striping it. So I'm not trying to weigh too much as far as the split. I think there is something to be said for correlating the course, what guys tee off on. So, if you see, maybe 2 or 3 guys that you like that tee off on Monterey, maybe just stack another 3 guys that tee off on Monterey and roll with that and do that in a couple lineups, and then do the same thing with Spyglass, same thing with Pebble. And, it's still in the relative same area, but there's something definitely to be said for guys that there's always a lower stroke average on one course or another. So trying to take advantage of that, and if the wind picks up somewhere on the coast and, Spyglass is okay, then you're in good shape. So I'm definitely not opposed to doing some of that. Have you thought that through at all?
No, I mean, I also saw something that talked about odd years, the rotation of the winner had been the same for like the last 4 iterations or something. I'm not really, I didn't look at a lot into course rotation. Maybe I should have, and maybe that's something I'll look at a little bit later this evening. But yeah, for me, course rotation and weather stacks. Honestly, for me, I'm just putting together my optimal lineup, and if I'm happening to lean on players that I know play okay in poor conditions, then that might be something I'm considering. But as far as course rotations,
not for this event. I feel like course rotation, you can kind of shoot yourself in the foot a little bit. Like I said, I'll probably try to correlate some lineups.
Yeah.
Get guys that are all teeing off on the same course. They get the same rotation, and that could definitely be a winner. But as far as you don't get like weird weather in the PM on Friday, so you need to target like the PM Thursday start time so they get the AM wins on Friday. Like, I'm not looking at any of that. That's something definitely to look into in other events like the British Open or US Open, but it's really tough across 3 courses and try to pick out like a certain rotation. So I think just try to keep your pool pretty tight. Look at guys that look really good, have some decent stats coming into this type of golf course. Obviously, ball striking, green regulation. And then if you want to get kind of cute in some GPPs, you try to correlate those starting courses like Monterey, Spyglass, and Pebble, and all the guys play that same rotation. There's a good chance that one of those, whether it's factual or not, there could be like 5 guys in the winning lineup that all start on Monterey. Who knows? But I think giving that a chance is actually a good strategy.
Okay, fair enough.
And then Thursday, just looking at Thursday, it's obviously really windy through the afternoon. But at that point, what are you going to do? I'm just trying to get guys through the 3rd round cut. So 2 other things I got on my mind before we get into some ownership. One, One is really interesting to me. I heard Kenny Kim talking about in the last, I think, 30 years, there's only been 2 international players that have won this event. I thought that was crazy, man, because every podcast I heard of, even we talked about it a little bit, you're looking at guys from Europe that are going to play well in this type of weather. And I'm sure in the last 30 years, there's been poor weather at Pebble Beach. So I thought that was really interesting that, every single guy pretty much that's been American that's played here has been the winner. So I don't really know how I can approach that. I still want to play Fleetwood. I still want to play Paul Casey, Shane Lowry. But I thought that was really, really interesting. So we'll see if that kind of bites me. And then, that was pretty much it as far as lineup construction goes. I try to keep your player pool tight. All the same principles every week as far as ball strikers, I think, is in play here. And then it does seem like more of a course history type of golf course, at least, whether it's real or not. It definitely seems like the same guys play well here every year.
Yeah. Sounds like we're playing Patrick Reed, right?
I am playing Patrick Reed, but we'll see how much. Do me a favor. Go ahead and check down these questions, Jacob. I'll transition over into our Fantasy Sports projections, and then we'll kind of see where we lie over here.
What do you think about Knox and or Hadley?
I like Knox. Hadley and GPPs I think I'm going to play. But I like Knox more. He played well the last couple weeks, ball striking wise. Obviously, he played good over in Ireland last year, or Scotland, I think. So I like Knox a decent bit this week. What else you got?
Okay. Yeah, I know I like Knox and Hadley both. Knox or Lowry?
They're a bit different in price, right?
I think Knox is...
He's like 81, and then Lowry's like 87, right? 88.
Yeah. So, I mean, technically, they're...
Yeah. No, I would probably play Lowry.
Okay.
It's easy to say if he's more expensive, but yeah, I like... Lowry seems like a better all-around player, I think, or at least a more veteran type of player coming from the European Tour. So that's where I stand on those two.
All right. Let's do 2 more. I got 2 more for you.
King
Thoughts
of Hearts
on...
says he does not have volume. Hopefully it's just on your phone, man. Hopefully we haven't been talking for 30 minutes to nobody. What else you got?
Oh, dang, I saw it.
Thoughts on Watney, I see. I'm not sure where you're at. I do like Nick Watney quite a bit this week, actually.
Yeah, I scrolled up a little bit to see some other stuff. I like Watney. No, I do like him a lot.
Yeah. Watney in your DJ lineup, I like that quite a bit. Yeah. Jimmy Walker, yeah, we talked about that earlier. The Warden, and he's not going to be a ton. He's obviously playing awful coming in, or at least he looks awful, but he had the same lead-in form last year and finished 8th. So I think he just likes this place. He doesn't have to hit as many drivers. We'll see how the weather plays out again, but I like Jimmy Walker quite a bit, or at least a little bit.
I've seen a lot of talk, a lot of questions, comments in chat about Hadwin. Tell me your thoughts on Hadwin.
I feel I'll talk about Hadwin, but Nick Ferrone, Watney's his second highest owned, so I'm digging that. I feel like we're going down the same path, which is good. Hadwin's interesting, man. I feel like he's played well on these similar type of tracks, but then, oh man, I think on Monday he was one I talked about in the podcast, and I don't know if I'm gonna play him. At least right now, he's not in any of my lineups. So, just trying to look through. Yeah, I mean, like obviously the Desert Classic is his bread and butter. You talk about course history, that guy obviously loves it. Last week wasn't awful, but I feel like this golf course should set up well for him. So it's kind of hit or miss. 39th 2 years ago. So I probably should play some Adam Hadwin. The corollary courses that I used just from an approach standpoint was RBC Heritage and Valspar in Tampa. Just because the approach shots in Valspar are tough, the tee shots are fairly tight. So I'm assuming he's going to have to club down to hit the fairways. So that's kind of where I stand on Hadwin. Have you put any thought into him?
No, not necessarily, but that kind of sparked me. Didn't he win Valspar and
He
he
did.
plays well at Heritage?
He did. That's why I talked about him on Monday.
Okay.
I don't
So in
know.
theory, he matches your corollary, so
He does.
right?
He does. It just makes it really tough at 8,700, like we talked about. Lowry, guys a little bit above him. He's in a weird spot, you know.
Well, what's his ownership?
Let's go ahead and get into that, man.
Let's do it.
All right, so going in here, keep dropping questions. At Tulane, yeah, he's extremely mispriced. 6,100. I will be playing a good bit of him. Let's hop that at Tulane real quick, just to see what he's even projected. I heard earlier he's like 3. Yeah, 2.8. He's still at 2.8. So Nick's the wizard down there with ownership. I feel like, he's $6,100, 2.8. I feel like he's still probably a decent play. Like, that saves so much salary. You talk about a $7,000 guy that's, maybe 50-50 to make the cut, and Julian at Tulane is going to play 3 rounds. I don't think scoring will really be there. I think the course will play a little bit tougher, but 3 rounds for a $6,100 guy that allows you to go up, $900 to somebody in a mid-tier.
Yeah.
I like that quite a bit. But like I said, Jason Day over Dustin Johnson, 25 to 24.7.
Crazy.
And I know you just mentioned Hadwin, so let's take a peek. 8.2%. Yeah, pretty low.
Yeah, I mean, for that reason, I would easily move off Lowry.
Well, you think Lowry's that much higher? I'm curious about Hadwin's around the green. I'm going to take a peek at that real quick.
I just feel like I've heard a lot of Lowry chatter.
Yeah, dude. Hadwin's actually been playing really well, even at the end of last year. I know he had a really bad stretch through the summer, but Hadwin's interesting. Let's take a peek at Lowry. We got... Can you see it? You have a guess?
I don't have a guess. Can't see it yet.
18% Lowry. I think, yeah, I would probably lean Hadwin there in GPP. That's crazy. That's 10%.
Lowry, yeah, huge.
I do like Lowry, but yeah, that seems... If he really ends up 18, I'll be surprised. But if we're going to try to use this, that's pretty nuts. Let's see if they got anybody... So Digo85, the winner at Pebble Beach, including U.S. Open, has had a T16 or better finish in 1 or both of his previous 2 starts. Yeah, I did see that. Obviously, not everybody in your lineup probably fits that category. So those are really interesting. I don't know how you approach that, Jacob, but I see those quite a bit. And how do you round out a roster with that information? Like, most of the guys up top probably had a top 16 within the last 2 or 3 events. But then when you get down to like a $7,100 to $7,500 guy and below, can't really do much with that. So I feel like I like the stats. It's just really tough to like make any actionable decisions off of it.
Yeah, so when I read a stat like that, and I feel like you see them often just throughout the week in general, neat stats that might be interesting, but don't mean anything, essentially. I remember I was watching, I think, the NBA Finals, and they put up some crazy stat about LeBron, and it was like first player with X points, X rebounds, X steals, and it was some absurd sample size, like in the third quarter of Game 7 on the road. Just like really... Whenever I see a stat like this, I think of that, and I think that those parameters are just so... You're almost shoehorning yourself a little bit.
I think golf's interesting with a lot of stats, and I know Nick was on our podcast a few weeks ago. We kind of went down this rabbit hole. That's why it led to an hour and 40-minute podcast. But there's a lot of stats in golf that what happens at the end of a tournament doesn't really reflect what that player looked like going into an event. Like, you play courses differently, a couple bad holes, and you look like, man, this guy can't drive the golf ball. You talk about like strokes getting off the tee and stuff like that. It doesn't take much, and you start, you hit a few skanky tee shots, and you're back from the field. Especially these shorter hitters. You talk about Hadwin. I don't know what his off the tee game looks like, but you know, he hits a few bad drives in an event, and he's all of a sudden looks like he's losing like 2 or 3 shots off the tee. You know, coming here doesn't really matter much, you know?
Yeah.
So it's golf's interesting from a, you know, we talk, putting's the biggest one, right? You look at a guy, if you were just looking at stats and said, oh man, if you look at the AT&T Pebble Beach the last 10 years, probably the last 30 years, the guys that finished in the top 3 all gained, you know, a ton of strokes putting. Well, that's probably every single tournament, man. Like, these guys all hit relatively the same amount of greens. They're all pretty good with their irons. It's just who can make the most putts. But, you know, from a DFS perspective, we got to really target in guys that are hitting it a little bit better, and then hopefully they do make those putts. And you get a guy like Jason Day that hits his irons a little bit better, makes those putts, and he's finishing second or winning the event. So golf's really weird with stats. That's why I try to stick to traditional, and I feel like Nick was kind of in that same category. He at least uses a blend. So, yeah, you know, looking at some of those stats, like, oh, the last since 2000, the guy hasn't had a 16th or worse, and he's won the event. You know, it's probably true because you get guys like, you know, DJ that have won it and Phil and stuff like that. So, kind of moving down the list because we're jumping off the rails. Putnam, 0.8% off of last week.
That is crazy.
I know. I played him last week. There's someone in the chat. Was it JMO or somebody else that I think we went back and forth on Putnam, and I still think he was a good play last week. I know he played bad, but, you know, in hindsight, you can always say if a guy missed the cut, he was a bad play. But I think at the ownership he was last week and how he was playing coming in there, he was a good leverage spot, and just didn't pan out. But this week, I'm probably not going to play him. And that's one of those, it's borderline recency bias, I guess, but I'm not going to play as many guys in my core to make so many lineups that he's just not going to make the cut. So do you have any takes on Putnam if you were, you know, building 20 lineups or 10 or 50? Like, where would he fall?
So I actually do have a little interest in him. When I was looking down the line initially on Monday, I saw his name and thought that was not a terrible price for him. I mean, this is the same guy that we were talking about 3 weeks ago or what have you that played really well. What event was it? Was it Sony?
Well, yeah, he played good at he played really good at the Sony because he lost coming down the stretch. But I think he gained so many strokes putting, but he kept gaining strokes putting. So yeah, that's just his game. But yeah, and he was so popular the next week. Exactly,
and then he's dropped off. Certainly, I just
sub 1%, man. He's dropped off. You know what, 10,000%?
Well, I would say more so he's dropped off in performance.
Yeah, a little bit. He had one bad showing.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I have interest in him, because at that price and sub 1%, I mean, for a guy that was leading the Sony until the last round and putts really well on a course where you value putting because, you know, POA is the trickier surface. I don't see that as a bad play. I see that as a play where you can gain a ton of leverage over the field.
And he only had one bad round. Let's come back to the ownership here in just a second. But I'm curious about you talking about Putnam, because just looking through his stats. So he shot 69 on round 1, probably like within the field, and then shot 77. So just looking at that, let's see, waste management. So round 2, I'm curious like how he really played. Like, did he hit a few bad shots and that's how bad it looked?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Yeah, he lost strokes putting. Okay, he's supposed to be a better putter than that. He lost 4.5 strokes approach. Let's take a peek at his green and regulation. Yeah, so I mean, I think he just hit his irons really poorly. Let's see if he had a ton of doubles or something. No doubles, just 7 bogeys. So I think he just played poorly with his irons. That's certainly something that can turn around pretty quick the next week. So he probably should be on my radar. 7,900 is probably pretty cheap for how he's played to start the year and really last year, you know?
Yeah.
All right, let's hop back over to some fan share. Anybody else? So let's see. We got Fitzpatrick in here. He's just under 10%. I don't really have a lot of love for Fitzpatrick. We don't have to get into that too much, but I think he's getting a little bit of hype, and he really hasn't played that great since the European Tour. And I think it was funny. I don't know if it was on Pat Mayo's show like last week or the week before, but he was talking about Fitzpatrick gets glorified from the European Tour, and he's basically playing European Tour fields. So, wouldn't you think Joel Damon's pretty good if he's playing European Tour fields every week? And granted, I think Matthew Fitzpatrick's a better player than Joel Damon, but I think he's getting a bit hyped up at 8,600. I'm not going to be buying in at that. RCB. That's an interesting one. I've heard a little bit of hype around him,
Yeah, no, I like him a lot. I'd like to see...
He's not too bad, 12.2%.
Yeah, no, that's not bad. What about Casey? I saw Casey up in the chat, somebody saying they hadn't heard a lot about him.
Okay.
I know you're on Casey.
Yeah, I'm playing Casey for sure. He was almost... Me and Chris were talking earlier about one-and-dones, and he was in the conversation. I wish we could talk with everybody in the chat about one-and-dones because I feel like 12%. This is a really tough week. Yeah, Casey at 12.5%.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, we'll play some Paul Casey at 12%. Has Doug Gim played here before? I don't think he has.
He hadn't. I checked it.
No, he hadn't. No, but I'm playing Doug Gim, man. Let's see what he's at. I'm playing some Doug Gim. Absolutely. I don't know why his price jumps so high. I guess just off the farmers. 8%. It's up there. I think I'll still play him, though. Let's see. So scrolling down the chat, just trying to see what question we have. What do you got?
What about Glover? Thoughts on Glover?
Papa Wolf. Let's see what he's at. 10%.
Oh, that's a little higher than I thought he would be.
You thought he was going to be around 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he'd be sub 5. Yeah, I probably won't play Glover, especially on Poa greens. And last week I want to kind of chalk up to course. You and I talked about it Thursday when he got off to the bad start. We started looking into it more. And the prior year, he had the second or third most double bogeys in the event. Mm-hmm. Double bogeys are worse in the event in 2018. So obviously as a sign, he's either doesn't like it or he's got a lot of bad memories, and it obviously played out that way. But I kind of want to chalk up last week as a fluke, and I feel like he sets up well for this type of golf course. Obviously, he's won a U.S. Open before, but yeah, I haven't put him into the player pool, but maybe I should. You have any thoughts on him? I know he was one that killed you last week.
Yeah, no, I wrote him up this week, actually. My hope, at least, was that there would be a lot of recency bias because in my olden days, I would avoid him 100% because of his performance and the miscut the week before. But, as I wrote up, I think that he is a very, very good ball striker, and this is a ball striker event. And my hope is that the POA and the small greens would even out his poor putting a little bit, sort of even the field a little bit. But 10%, that surprises me. Like you said, I thought he would be sub 5. And
yeah, that's right. I mean, we could certainly, if we have time, we could go back to the historical from last week and check to see again where it went wrong. But I just think it was course for him. He just didn't like that golf course.
Oh, I could tell you, he lost 4 strokes putting on the first day.
I know you talked about that, but I feel like if he lost strokes putting, then ball striking wise, he's still in play. But then this is POA, and there's a chance he loses 4 strokes putting again. Yeah. Let's look at yeah, and Glover hasn't played here for 3 years. He had a good finish then, but it's off last week. It's definitely got a sour taste in my mouth. So Gay, 6.8%. You think that's probably about right? 6,800. I feel like that's okay.
Yeah, I like the Gay call. I like him. I like Patrick Rogers also in that range.
I do like Patrick Rogers. He's another one, like the Jimmy Walker course history thing. No good recent form and come in with that.
He's California Stanford boy.
He did, yeah. So, he's got something going on there.
Yeah.
Enjoy. You did miss the weather talk. We can touch on it here in just a minute. We can go back and see. It probably hasn't updated anything, but we can look at it. And Johnny Appleseed, thanks, man, for the podcast shout out. And work a cut, man. I need to get a haircut. I don't know which thing you're talking about growing out red, but I know I need to get a haircut, man. You don't have to tell me. I thought about wearing a hat. Should have done that. You made fun of me.
I got a haircut today.
Good job, man. You look great. Good work. Watney ownership. Good question. That's a good one. DL3. Man, I think DL3 will be sneaky popular this week because I think I touched on it on Monday, and you and like 5 other people in chat talked about it, and now I'm seeing some stuff on Twitter and obviously in here. Watney at 9.3. I think that's fine. I think 9% for Nick Watney is I can handle that.
Yeah. I don't mind that at all.
Davis Love. Let's see what's going on. You want to play Davis Love or Drew Love?
Drew.
No.
Uncle Drew. No.
Davis 3.9. That's fine. Sneaky. I'm good with that. Yeah, man. Okay. You see anything else in here? We can kind of hop over. We can hit the betting card and we can probably break into some giveaways and then go back, touch on the weather. And of course, guys, we got to talk about some Ho-Sung Choi. That guy.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna lose friends over that. You want to talk about Ho-Sung?
No, I'm gonna talk about Piercy. Just saw it pop up.
All right. Well, let's see Piercy, but let me just check Ho-Sung. I'm just curious. It's over 1%. It's over.
Well, it probably. Yeah, I was about to say it's gonna be over that. The hype is real.
I like the start sits at 33%. One thing too, guys. Again, this is FanShare Sports. You can sign up and use Fantasy Golf Bag as a promo code, and you would get 20% off on your subscription. And definitely has a lot of good tools. The one thing that I noticed last week and worked out great was the latest tags are the 24-hour tag. So obviously FanShare Sports accumulates all this data from different media outlets to kind of get their idea of where the ownership's going to lie. And it's really interesting to see like where the tags have dropped and gained over 1 week. We saw that a couple weeks ago with Hudson Swafford. I mean, that was at the Farmers, it's kind of an easy fade, but he was up like 62 tags from the week before, just off of one good finish. So, these are guys that have popped quite a bit. We talked about Snedeker, Russell Henley. So Henley, 20%, man.
Gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, pass. It's a pass.
Yeah. Easy choice.
If I was playing 150 lineups, maybe I just I don't know. Half
put
the
him in
field
10,
sounds stupid.
10 or 20?
Yeah, probably 15. Yeah, it just sounds nuts. But yeah, you see a lot of these guys with tag bumps, and a lot of them are just recent form. I'm surprised by Kevin Kisner. Charlie Hoffman, perfect. Like Charlie Hoffman's got a bunch of hype this week, and just off of last week's finish. So I'm not playing any Charlie Hoffman. It's just, it's really interesting to see kind of how just 1 week of good play really bumps you. Sung J M, let's look at him real quick. 15.8.
Well, I thought he'd be higher than that.
Yeah, I think people talk about him, man, and then they just don't play him. Let's see down this chat. We got anything? Jay Blaze, any Max Homa, and you said Piercy. Did I look him up yet?
No, I don't think so.
Just under 6. That's pretty good. I like Scott Piercy a good bit this week, man. He looks solid. We'll see how he plays in the weather. And Homa's interesting. I don't know if Workacut's in the chat, but he's like friends with the caddy of Max. He's at 1% ownership. Obviously, Monday qualified last week and played decent. So, we'll see how that goes. I'm probably not going to play him. It's cheap, though. You get 3 rounds. I think that's another strategy is just the 3 rounds. Let's see Ruffles. 1%. Ruffles is interesting, man, because he's not really a veteran, but he's been around like the professional tours, not the PGA Tour, for a while. He's one at 6,000. I would probably gamble on, for sure.
Fair enough.
Fathauer, bad play. Dude, he played decent at the web.com last week, I think. I think that's what he played.
Yeah, no, I think he's stars and scrubs. He's okay for that.
How do you spell Fathauer?
Fathauer.
Oh, my bad. All right. Yeah, 1.2%. Henley almost 20. Yep, Knox around 12. You got that. Full fade Henley. And with that shoulder, who's he talking about? Bar down. Who are you talking about with that shoulder? What's this 3-round thing? You keep referring to how many rounds in there. No, they're playing 4 rounds for the tournament, but they get 3 guaranteed rounds. It's a 3-course rotation. Ruffles has a shoulder thing? Didn't know that. Svensson, good question there. I do like Svensson quite a bit. Let's see where he's popping. I got a feeling he's under the radar. I don't think he's got like top, he's going to win the thing, but yeah, 3.9%, 6.9K. Connors, good one. Chef Perm. And Connors coming at 7.5%. So I forget who asked about the weather real quick, but we'll jump back to that here in just a second. Let's hop into the betting card real quick. Just kind of go over that. We'll go over some last minute things, and then we'll eyeball the questions as we watch some Ho-Sung Choi footage. I think I'm gonna lose some friends over this Ho-Sung Choi guy, man. I feel like if you played with him, you would be upset. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Would you be upset if you played with him?
Oh, I'd be pissed. You don't
think he takes it seriously?
No. I think he takes playing golf seriously, but I think this is somewhat like an act. I'm on Rory's level as far as what this dude's doing. Kudos to him. He's entertaining, so I'm not going to get into all of that, but him spinning around is not necessary. And I don't know. I feel like if I was on tour and being respectful to anybody, I wouldn't be doing that. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. This is probably the best event for him to do it because it'll be one other pro, which I think it's Jerry Kelly, and then obviously the two amateurs. So they don't care.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is in his group.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, betting card again. There's only 2 bets on here that I added late, and so just kind of looking through the outrights. Obviously, I don't want to bet DJ. I think I took a couple doubles. There was some things on Twitter as far as the web.com with DJ, web.com with Day, or it might have been European Tour with DJ and Day. So I took a couple of those, but the outrights here in the top 5s are what I'm sticking to. And the only other outrights I took, I went ahead and bought into a little bit of Spieth. I don't think I'm going to play him in DFS, but 22 to 1. If the weather's going to be tough and he can kind of grind out a decent, couple days, I think he can be right there. Hopefully he can putt decent, but yeah, at 22 to 1 for a guy he's got lower odds at the Masters, like crazy. So I'll take some Spieth, 22 to 1. And then the other one is Snedeker. I think he was 60 to 1. I think 60 to 1. So I grabbed him as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad number for sure.
No, and he's another one I'm not going to play a ton of, but you can see he's already there in my top 5. Like I feel decent about him. It's just not going to be like a staple or anything like that.
Yeah.
All right, let's we'll keep answering some questions. Let's talk some Ho-Sung Choi for a second, and then we can kind of wrap this up and get these guys out of here, man.
Sounds good.
I assume everyone in chat has seen this guy. Do amateur pairings ever mean anything or just for show? It doesn't really mean anything. I think playing with a good amateur definitely helps. Like, I don't know who gets paired with Bill Murray every year, but that can't help you. But if you got paired with like, who's that?
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, him or Fitzgerald from the Arizona Cardinals. Like he's like an 8 handicap. Like just
Tony Romo.
Tony Romo. I mean, he's a single digit. So you get paired with some of those guys. It helps. I'm not going to weigh too much of that into my lineups. These guys know how to play pro-ams, man. They play them every single week. Some of these guys play them twice a week. So on the PGA Tour, they play a Monday Pro-Am for like the no-name guys. Like there's really not a lot of no-name guys for us because we look at the tour every week. But maybe a Scott Piercy plays on like a Monday and also gets put into the Wednesday Pro-Am. So he's playing 2 Pro-Ams a week. So these guys know how to deal with amateur golfers. That's no different. But it's definitely interesting. It's the 7-hour round kind of gets me. I think that's something that Bryson would have a tough time with. I'm curious to see how Reed handles it if it gets to that point. So there's definitely some patience factor that goes into some of this stuff. First round leader, all Monterey Peninsula course plays this week. Yeah, I think that's smart. And again, tomorrow the weather's not bad, so it's going to be really interesting to see how guys tear up Pebble. But yeah, I think Monterey is probably the smart choice. And Doozy, these guys aren't really random, man. Like these amateurs, I don't know if you look down the list. I don't think I have it up to pull up, but I mean they're like literally Phil Mickelson is playing with Charles Schwab, like the Charles Schwab.
There's probably $100,000 bets going on there.
Probably. His 401k is being wagered at every other hole. It's really interesting. So there's definitely no names, and yeah, I think it's $40K for a spot. And you might have to have some type of like letter of recommendation to get in. It might just like I couldn't pay $40K and go play. I'm not sure how that works, but I'm pretty sure that's the number. John Smoltz, yeah, you mentioned him. He's a good one. So let's just take a peek at this homeboy's swing here, Ho-Sung. I mean, I get that he's entertaining, man. I feel like he got into the event for his show. He's not even like the top 5 on the Japan tour.
I've hit a few tee shots that look like that.
He's a character, that's why.
They're not reaching for provisional.
Yeah.
The gap between the bunkers there, if you go.
I don't have a problem with his swing. Like his swing isn't bad. It's the freaking
falter.
Yeah, don't twist around. At least don't wear spikes.
Well done.
Does he do it on the chips? Oh, he doesn't do it on the chips. Thank God. That would be a joke.
Has he done it? Oh.
And then the other thing too, man.
I'll never get tired of watching this motion.
He'll be putting and he'll like hit a putt and immediately do like 3 somersaults.
Barking orders at it.
Oh yeah, I have seen that.
I mean, he's a good player. Just I feel like there's a lot of really good players on the Japan tour that didn't get into this thing. The dude's 50 years old.
As well as anybody.
Ho-Sung's 50?
I think he's 46, but I'm just rounding up for dramatics.
I'll see, even that wedge from the fairway, he doesn't do the spin.
Yes.
Golf Channel did a brilliant breakdown of why he spins out his front foot. Don't give me that work a cut. I don't buy into this.
That is remarkable. It's a fine shot. That should.
The left foot's twisted. The right foot's off.
Look at this guy.
I like how he tries to hold his finish.
Oh.
I'm gonna make a video next week and send it to like the Bay Hill Invitational and say, here, pick me, put me in the event. I can twist. Seriously, like.
It's not about the twist, it's the lean at the end.
I really have no
I mean, if you want to lean, it's like Keegan leans, but he doesn't like end up on another tee box.
You know what though? That's a pure
Look at him. Looks like
What can you do?
Talking to it.
No, that's what I'm saying, Mindy Mark. His swing is fine. It's just like, what are you doing?
Pretty narrow fairway.
Look at
par 5. Ordinarily,
dude. Look, he's walking out of the gates. He's walking out of the gates.
I would say that was a pretty good swing, but
every little waggle.
He's a clown.
He's a clown. Thank you. All right, that's enough freaking Ho-Sung Choi. We'll hop back to the weather real quick. We'll see if we have anything left to do.
I doubt it's changed in the last 40 minutes.
No, it hasn't. I just want to recap that. We'll answer the last few questions. We'll try to hit a giveaway. And I think that's it. I'm just looking down the schedule. Yeah. I mean, Ho-Sung was just the bread and butter to end the show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's a hammer.
Drew, would you rather play 18 with a helicopter boy or a guy that plays like Happy Gilmore? Happy Gilmore. I mean, if a guy played like Happy Gilmore and he was decent, I'd probably be okay with it. But this guy's spinning around. He doesn't even do that. He doesn't even do that. If you play with me and did that, man, I'd be pissed. And I'm not even being like a golf snob. I'm just saying. All right, John Johns. Yeah, man, let's go. I think guys are scared this week. We'll definitely hit it. And Work a cut playing 2% of freaking Ho Sung Choi. But yeah, so I forget who it was that came in late. Again, Thursday, guys. I'm sorry, Thursday looks pretty good for weather.
It was Enjoy.
Enjoy.
Yeah,
Thanks, man. You got good memory. There you go. He popped right up. So yeah, Thursday, really not a lot of weather, man. It looks good. I'm looking forward to watching it. And then Friday is going to be the rough day. 20 mile per hour winds up to 24 mile per hour gusts. It's going to be cold, around 50 degrees, a little bit of rain in the afternoon. I don't think they'll see a ton of rain. It might just be drizzles here and there. But the wind is what will get them. The wind will get them. And then Saturday doesn't look too bad. So we'll see hopefully they can get through it. If it's going to rain a ton, looks like a quarter of an inch at 4 p.m. So that's a lot of rain. So we'll kind of see how that goes.
Heavy.
It's a good weekend golf tournament. Hopefully one of y'all is out in California can go. I know Work Cut's in LA, but hopefully someone can go out there. Choi swing is not similar to Barkley. Barkley just stops.
He doesn't even have a swing.
He doesn't have a swing. I think it's gotten a little better. Let's see if this giveaway thing's working. It was jacked up earlier. Oh, it worked. Good. Thank you. All right, guys. Chris Ferreter is not in the chat, but he is hooking us up with some new T-shirts with some new colorways coming out in the probably, I think he said end of next week, so it'll be for the next show. So we'll have some new colors, some new shirts. That'll be nice. So we'll go ahead and we'll do 3 giveaways this week. No club, no Super Stroke script. Hopefully the people that are in chat that received those got it this week and are enjoying it. So we'll go ahead and do a couple keywords here. Let's go and spin the wheel. If you guys do have any follow-up questions, just drop them in there. I'll try to hit them as we're running through this thing. All right, FGB.
Oh, work a cut. That's bold.
What do you say?
Fleet Goat misses the cut.
Don't put that on me, man.
So, don't want your juju.
Yeah, I wish I could ask this in the giveaway, but if you guys are playing one and done, I'm curious who y'all are playing in one and done. So if you want to type that in the chat, I'm curious to see who everyone is playing because we talked about that earlier. I don't really feel like burning a DJ this week just with the iffy weather on Friday. So I was leaning kind of Paul Casey, maybe Brandon Grace, and I don't really want to burn Jason Day or any of those other guys. So I don't know who. Yes, Spieth I think you save for like the Masters. Ches is probably okay. Yeah, Ches is decent. Lowry. Yeah. Mindy Mark, don't play Stallings in one and done, man. What are you doing? Yeah. Rory at Masters, sure. But I mean, Spieth, if anything, he's a better play at the Masters than here, for sure. And DJs, I mean, there's a ton of good plays at the Masters. If you haven't played Justin Rose, that's the time to play him. All right, so let's do a keyword. This is the FGB T-shirt. Let's see here. Let's do easy peasy. Ho Sung. Throw in Ho Sung in the chat.
Everybody might not know how to spell that, so you can go Choi.
Calm down.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, man, I've been drinking the wrong beer.
We got to cut this guy off.
I had a second one, and I guess I switched where the cup holder was, and I just thought I drank it too fast, but I didn't. It's still there. All right. Give you like 5 more seconds, and I'll roll it, and we'll do 2 more, and we'll get you guys out of there. Hope you have a great week. At least watching the golf, man. I'm excited to watch this. What do you feel like, Jacob? It's one of the best courses in the world for sure. I just hope my lineups say that. All right, I'm gonna roll it.
I work tomorrow and Friday, so I probably won't get to watch much. But the weekend, I'm off. So
well, that's good. You don't have to tilt too much. Congrats, L. Burgess. JMO, I am drinking it's a Sweetwater Brewing Company. It's a 420. It's a G13 IPA, G13 strain IPA. I like it. It's pretty good. Yeah, actually, work a cut. That's a good question. When you let's hit these last 2 giveaways, and we'll just wrap up for like 2 minutes on the showdown stuff, and then we'll get everyone out of here. All right, last two. L. Burgess, congratulations. I will send you a text through Twitch and get your stuff. Another FGB t-shirt. It's all right. That's all right. All right, guys. For this one, we will do Pebble. Type in Pebble in chat. Drinking 1993 Thomas Hardy and had to drain pour it. I don't know what that means, Orange Man. Orange Man, what the heck are you talking about? And work a cut as far as like just loading up on the Monterey guys. Yeah, that's the goal. Let me load this thing up as far as the showdown stuff, but that'll definitely help. All right, we'll do 5 more seconds and I'll roll it, and we'll do one more. I didn't ask that, Jamie. I don't know who asked that for proximity. Someone came in and they didn't like my take. Mindy Mark. He won the freaking wedge, man. All right, last one, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. We have fun, and hopefully it gives you some insight into some of the ownership and weather and answers some of your questions. Work cut rig. I think it is, man. I think somehow he got into this. Golf polo. We can do a golf polo. All right. Yeah, I remember you. I remember JMO. I don't know who asked it. It was someone else, though, about the proximity, but I went ahead and answered it, so I don't know if
somebody was trolling you earlier. That's why.
Is that what they were doing?
Yeah.
Well, I just reverse trolled them because I owned that. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see here. Let's do... All right, the key word to win the FGB Golf Polo is Paulina.
Ah.
Ship it. There we go. And Chef Perm, I see you, man. Hopefully we can we make that Sunday work as far as the Top Golf. That'd be fun, man. It'd be fun. I guess that's David from the Tour Junkies that's going to be there. That'd be cool. Paul Gasolina. He plays like 6 minutes a game, man. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and roll this one. Oh, he's starting tonight? Never mind. Razorback, congrats, man. And let's do one more. I'm feeling generous. It's too much fun. Let's do one more. We'll do one more tonight, and then work cut. We'll hit that throwdown for like 5 minutes. We'll get you out of here. I know we ran a little over, but hopefully this was beneficial for this type of event. FGB hat. Easy. All right, keyword is going to be withdraw. Because everyone withdrawed. I see Nick in there, man. Thanks again for tuning in, Nick. Good luck this week, buddy.
Casey is not going to withdraw, work a cut.
What did he say?
He's putting juju on all your guys, man.
Stop it, man. Stop.
He said Casey is going to withdraw.
Well, what's really funny about like all these withdrawals is we kind of like complain when Kevin Na withdraws 30 minutes after tee times lock, but then like 36 people withdraw 2 days before lineup lock, and everyone's like, man, everyone's withdrawing, but it's probably a good thing. You don't want the withdrawing after lineups lock. Orange Man trying to get after Nick. Yeah, Nick's just got some good variance going his way. That's what happens. All right, we'll run this thing here. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Work a cut. Unbelievable. All right. Guys, I'll jump over to the showdown, but I'll let you all go if you want to leave before we talk about this stuff. I know it's getting a little late if you're on the East Coast, if you have other stuff to do or build your lineups. But absolutely, you're more than welcome to hang on. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Fantasy Golf Bag live stream. And you can find us at fantasygolfbag.com and the Fantasy Golf Bag podcast that releases every Tuesday morning. Again, we'll be here next week at 9 p.m. Eastern. And obviously, you can catch us on Twitter. I am on at Red Kachik and JK Ray ASU on Twitter. So good luck so much, guys. And, hopefully we can weather the storm, pardon the pun, and have
terrible.
And have some good weeks. It's, you do get a hat, worker cut. So good luck, guys. We hope you have an awesome weekend watching the Pro-Am 7-hour rounds. And we'll see you back here next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we appreciate it. So if you guys do want to hang on, let's hop over there and talk about some showdown real quick. Work a cut, screwing over the whole production. I'm sure Jacob's tired of me. Let's hit this real quick. All right, man. So work a cut. Look. So when you're talking about these showdowns, you come into the Fantasy Golf Bag. So we have, I know there's different tools you can use. So with the live strokes gain we have, you can sort by strokes gained. You can sort by traditional. So you can see the difference here. We have all the strokes gained stats. We have traditional. You got scrambling, distance, fairways hit, green regulation, putts. And then we have scoring if you just want to look at birdies or bogeys or doubles. It's actually really interesting to see how many doubles happen with some guys. I think it was Wyndham Clark last week. Or no, this was it. It was Grayson Murray. So real quick, let's just see this real quick because I thought this was crazy. Even though this doesn't have to do with showdown. But if you look at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am from last year, and that's one guy that none of y'all brought up. I'm kind of curious. Grayson Murray, Jacob. Did you have you even looked into him at all? If you haven't, that's fine. I'm just saying.
No dice.
All right. So Grayson Murray finished 8th last year. Obviously, he had been playing quite a bit. In the event, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was round 4 or not, but he had, where's he at? He had 3 double bogeys, and he lost by 7 shots. Like, 3 double bogeys, man. I'm not sure which round that was in. Let's see, round 4. Round 4 he had none. Round 3 he had 1. And none. Round 1 he had 1, I guess. So, or he had 2 in round 1. So, yeah, he had 3 double bogeys and still finished 8th. I thought that was impressive. So he's kind of on my radar for this week. As far as showdown specifically, though, so we'll just hop back to last week as far as the Waste Management Open. And Work a Cut, you can use this tool the same way this week, man. And any of y'all in chat, I appreciate y'all hanging on. But look, if we go to, if you pull up this live, it'll just go to that current event, even though right now we're in between events. It's not going to show. Where's it at? Waste Management. So it'll load. All right. So let's just say, we're looking to go from round 2 to round 3. You can look at event total. It'll include round 1 or round 2 or however many rounds they've played. I like to look at round 2 going into round 3 or, whatever round they're going into the prior round, basically. So there's a couple of things I like to look at first. One is traditional. I love to see guys that putted really awful. So, you go down here, you talk about a guy like Emiliano Grillo. He had 34 putts in round 2. He was a really good target in round 3. Round 3, let's see what he shot. We don't have his round. But he had 26 putts. So, like a huge bounce back from 34 putts to 26. So, you like to look at those right off the bat, guys that really putted poorly and hit a lot of greens. So, some guys will probably, hit 55% of greens. That's no good. But 94%, 72%, sign me up. Then you can switch over once you kind of figure out where you want to look to strokes gained. You get an idea of who's gaining the most on approach for that particular round going into round 3, or if you're looking at round 3 going into round 4. And And then you can see kind of how that differential works with their putting. So like for Ricky was a really interesting play. I know he had the debacle on Sunday, but let's just search on Fowler for a second. Starting in round 1, going into round 2, he gained strokes putting, and his approach numbers were good. His off the tee looks good. So like going into round 2, he was okay. After he played round 2, he had gained more strokes on approach, and he had gained less strokes putting. So he was still a good candidate for a showdown. You go into round 3, and there you see the difference. He had a bounce back on his putting. His approach normalized, and he had a really good round. And then round 4, with him gaining 3 strokes in round 3, he gained 3 strokes and lost the same amount of strokes approach. So like if you look at the round 3 approach, he's losing or he's decreasing. He loses that, I would call him a showdown play after round 2, but not after round 3. And you can kind of see how that played out in round 4. But yeah, you can use this for every single guy. I don't know if anyone else in here, like Workercut, if you had any specific questions, but that's how I would suggest you use it after round 1 this week. And of course, the strokes gain will only be on Pebble, so you get an idea of who's moving from Pebble to Monterey. So hopefully that answers some of your questions. Don't fall asleep, Jacob. Boone Cree, he hates me right now. I only hired him for the hour. I'm paying overtime. But yeah, man, hopefully that helps.
Time and a half.
Yeah. So doing neck skin pull. Oh man. All right, guys. We appreciate it. I know it's getting late. So thank you so much again for tuning into the Fantasy Golf Bag podcast. Hopefully this helped with your lineup construction and thought process for your strategies and GPPs and cash games. Check us back next week on Twitch, 9 p.m. Eastern, and then also the podcast comes out Tuesday morning. All of our articles and tools you can find at fantasygolfbag.com. I'm Red Kachik. That's JK Ray ASU. We will see you next week. Good luck, guys.